area.
Oh, are you here in the city?
But I live in Chicago.
Oh, you're in
So
Chicago. Okay. Well, yeah, we're getting about the same weather. Oh, so tell us a little bit about you. What got you into doing documentaries?
for sure. So I've been working in the documentary space for the better part of 10 years now. I originally went to film school at Northwestern, but I've been really kind of grooming my visual eye from a young age. I've always been really interested in the world around me and how we frame, our day to day lives. And so that's what got me into filmmaking originally. And then once I graduated, I became involved with Template Films here in Chicago and started working on my first feature film about the movement for Black Lives here in Chicago with a film called Unapologetic. And so I had the privilege of showing that film with Milwaukee Film a few years ago, and I'm privileged to be back again with this new project that really focused on healthcare equity, mostly in the South, but it has a tie into Wisconsin as well. And so, yeah, I've just always been really interested in how we frame marginalized communities and those that are, underprivileged and deserve for their voices to be illuminated.
Are you originally from Chicago?
I'm from Indianapolis originally.
Oh, you're from Naptown. Okay.
Yes, Naptown. Yes.
And you ended up at Northwestern. Now it's there are people who do like the action feature films, and then there's that whole other genre of documentary films. What goes into putting together a documentary?
Ooh, how much time you got?
Got a couple of days.
Yeah, so I think I think with documentary filmmaking, it's really important that the witnessing that we're doing are people's real lives, are people's real experiences. And so for me, I always like to start at the point of connecting on a human level. A lot of times with fictional films, you'll start with the script, you'll start with the concepts, and that's the same for documentary, but it's really about relationship building when it comes to your participants and the voices that you are gonna, put up on the main stage of your film. And so once that relationship building starts, you're able to start getting some of that access. It's not too dissimilar from, the fictional space. You still need to fundraise. You oftentimes are looking for collaborators that have aligned visions with you. And eventually are hoping to get, major distribution as well, whether that's public TV, whether that's streaming. It's just, I like to say that the default timeline for a doc is about 5 years between concept and, or a feature at least, between concept and the actual distribution of the film, because so much of it's relationship building and, you don't necessarily film 20 days back to back. It might be spread over like 2-3 years. And so that's kind of how I've approached it in my work.
So is there a difference, like if the level of research that you have to do? Let's say you're doing a historical documentary as opposed to what you're doing here, which is a particular subject matter, like what we're looking at now, your short film In Due Season. So is there a level of research that goes into putting together a documentary?
Yes, absolutely. I would say research, undergirds a lot of the approach that we take when we're actually conceptualizing the film and making those connecting pieces. And so with In Due Season, for example, I was lucky enough to have the support of the American Cancer Society, who has been doing research for years and years about healthcare inequities and particularly this issue of Medicaid inequity. And so they luckily, or I was very grateful to just have their support as we learn more about this subject, kind of like the status of Medicaid and healthcare access for all in our country right now, and then particularly how that disproportionately affects Black populations of color, and some of those. I think oftentimes having those hard numbers, those hard statistics, is really a great just kind of like launching point because it helps you understand the gravity of an issue, but then the storytelling helps you to kind of tie it tie it together on a, emotional, psychosomatic level.
When I think about landmark legislation, uh, two of the more consequential landmark legislations we've had in the government, first being Social Security,
Hmm.
1935, and then of course Medicare, Medicaid, 1965, and then the Affordable Care Act in 2010. Your film deals with the lack of access of folks, particularly in the South, to Medicaid, the Title 19 program for healthcare.
Yes, yes, and it really looks at, as you said, Obamacare, as it was coined, was passed in 2010, but it really looks at how the state powers and that separation between federal and state can affect everyday Americans on a very visceral level. Despite the fact that this landmark legislation passed, there's still many lawmakers and legislators that, for whatever reason, they don't align with the tenets of the Affordable Care Act, despite the fact that it did offer this Medicaid expansion option, which also offered access to other public works money for a lot of these states. But because of, party lines and how people feel about Obama, to be quite honest, there's still 10 states that have failed to expand Medicaid access, and it's very, very difficult for people to access it with any level of income above the poverty level.
Wisconsin is one of those states, right? I don't think
Yes.
there were resistance, right? Okay. So they weren't just in the South. Were you able to, when you're putting together the documentary, to kind of get a sense of what drives opposition to expansion of particularly now of healthcare to all Americans? You were talking about the different parties. Were you able to glean what is the motivation behind people thinking that they shouldn't expand healthcare to all Americans?
I think, of course, it definitely is a party line issue in a lot of places. People don't want the association that comes with the Affordable Care Act, despite the fact that they oftentimes have state programs that mimic the Affordable Care Act. But I think also there is an aversion to social welfare programs with some of our politicians and some of our legislators. They really think that if you get a regular job and get benefits and work the hours that you're supposed to work, that you'll get access to the healthcare that you need. But that's unfortunately not how our society quite looks anymore. There are a lot of people that are gig workers, that are freelancers, that are entrepreneurs, and the traditional ways that we were able to access healthcare just do not work anymore. There's people that work regular 9 to 5 jobs and still do not have sufficient healthcare. Right. And so I think oftentimes our legislators and people that are making these decisions see it as a handout. They see it as people are taking advantage of the government, of the government's money, when in reality, if everyone has access to healthcare and is able to live a healthy life, they are able to then better contribute to society, to then put money into the economy and get their kids in better schools, and then they're able to contribute to society. And so I often think there's like a very limited scope of understanding the reverberating effect of that aversion to any type of quote unquote handout.
It's really interesting that so-called attitude to handouts, yet there are many people who, when it's time for them to be eligible for Medicare, those same people will jump and take the Medicare.
Oh yeah.
One of my observations is I'm amazed at our selective socialism, right, in this country. But then you start talking about marginalized communities. We then talk about COVID-19 really magnified the disparities between certain groups and their access to health care and then health outcomes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think COVID-19 catapulted the disparities even further than what we were seeing before. Especially, it also, there's a section of the film where we talk about healthcare education and the ways that we are communicating the help that is needed in order to live a healthy lifestyle in a lot of our marginalized communities. I'm sure you came across some folks in the Black community, other communities who didn't want to get the vaccine and didn't trust the vaccine or thought it may, have some adverse effects. And, it's the beginning of the film actually shows a historical record of the many, many ways the American healthcare system has disregarded and disposed of Black Americans going back to chattel slavery. And so I think we're very justified in our aversion and our hesitance is when we look at the historical record. But what needs to be happening is really this education piece, because, people do not know the options that they need, that they have. They don't know what they need. They don't know the steps to take. I'm a freelance worker as well, and I have every year to do open enrollment, and I feel like I'm starting from square one every year. Mm-hmm. But I know that I need that healthcare. I know that I need access to a primary care doctor and other specialists because I want to make sure that I'm ahead of these issues at a younger age than, where I'm 60 having to deal with a lot more issues. And so I think there's an education piece that the film illuminates as well, that even if Medicaid is expanded in these other 10 states and in the states where it's already expanded, there still needs to be that support so that people are able to understand their options and then navigate from there.
Yeah, I was one of the people who were encouraging people to get vaccinated. And I guess I kind of hedged my bet. Where I went to get my vaccination, I made sure there was a whole lot of white people there.
I know.
Just get the white people, because just in case there was a different vaccine they were giving Black people, I would have go. But I understand that, and we talked about that in terms of going back to the Tuskegee experiment, which wasn't a situation where someone received something. It was in effect where healthcare was not provided, and you had this. And so there's a level of distrust that you have when it comes to the American healthcare system. And then I think that's the other contradiction we have here. We have probably the greatest healthcare system in the world, but yet we do not have universal access to that great healthcare system for all U.S. citizens.
Yes, and that is, I really can't explain my level of frustration with that in itself. In the film we talked to a radio oncologist. Her name's Dr. Karen Wingfield. And she, she's no longer a practicing oncologist, but in her practice, she said one of the most challenging things for her was when she had, access to the tools to help a patient or to the treatment to help a patient, but because of their insurance option or because of their Medicaid option, what have you, there was not coverage or it wasn't fully covered, and then they didn't have, the means to be able to make up that difference. And so that goes back to the education piece as well. I think there's a transparency, a conversation that also happens, that needs to happen in terms of with our doctors and our hospital systems, because they have a lot of challenges and hoops to jump through as well, so that, so that the patient is able to get connected to the care that they need sometimes they have that insurance option and it's still not great. And so it's not perfect by any means. I think the film is very honest about that as well, that there's some limitations with Medicaid and that there's, like you said, that lack of healthcare access for all here in America. And, ultimately that is where I would like to move towards, but I know that this is a good stopgap in the meantime to be able to at least provide it to the most disadvantaged populations that are seeing a lot more of those healthcare harms and issues because of other factors in their living situation.
In terms of you putting together the documentary, could you see, is there an impact of how monetized healthcare is in this country? And this is where, you obviously you'd have people who would prefer for you to bring in private health insurance because they're able to bill at a higher rate than you could at Medicaid, right? And
Hmm.
so you have that resistance. But I think they said that number in terms of our healthcare, in terms of the economy, is like 1/8 of the economy. That's a significant portion of the economy, and so, and it really has been monetized.
Yes, absolutely. We don't jump into that as much. We don't get too much in the weeds
No,
of
I'm just asking you
the
your
oh
observation. Yeah,
my
not so much.
opinion.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think we live in a capitalist society. I think that the aversion to the Affordable Care Act in the first place was because lawmakers thought people should just get private insurance. They thought that that was the option and only that. But a lot of times, private insurance wasn't approving people on these application rolls. People were not having access to it or didn't have the means to afford it. And so I think the pivot to this public option where the funding is being provided by the federal government is why there's so much aversion still on this state level, because they want us as American citizens to be, or our corporations or our companies to be the ones pouring money into this healthcare system. But it's been so privatized and it's been so monetized that oftentimes it's not even it's going back into the healthcare industrial complex as it is. It's not even necessarily going directly into the American economy.
Right.
And so I just think it goes back to that, don't want to provide a handout, don't want to give people money to then give to the insurance companies. But again, if you have a healthy population, if you have people that have their basic needs taken care of every day, it's like there's so much empirical evidence that leads to better societal well-being.
It was interesting when we started the conversation. You said Obamacare, and I was thinking back to when that passed in 2010, and President Obama's aides were saying, "Don't call it Obamacare." It was pejorative, right? Don't call it Obamacare. Don't call it Obamacare. Now
Mm-hmm.
Republicans won't call it Obamacare because the Affordable Care Act is so popular in the country. And by calling it Obamacare, then it gives credit back to where it's due, Barack Obama
Mm-hmm.
and Nancy Pelosi passing, again, one of the most consequential pieces of legislation in the history of this country. Yeah, a few more minutes with you. You talked about the oncologist that you spoke with and you interviewed. Were there other stories that kind of stuck out to you when you were putting together the documentary?
Absolutely. So the film actually features three main voices throughout the piece that are experiencing different levels of healthcare disparity or healthcare crisis. We really tried to capture a range across age, across class, across location. And so the three main voices, Nidra, Pam, and Brian, have all at some point in the past or recent past had to navigate the healthcare system without insurance. And they're living across Mississippi, Georgia, and Florida. All states that don't have that Medicaid expansion. And because of that, there is a very, very low threshold of income that you can have in order to be approved for Medicaid in the first place. But then if you make too much, then you don't qualify. But you still don't make enough to afford that private insurance. And so the film really illuminates people that are living in what's called the gap, and have no options. And so they're having to go about how they take care of these healthcare problems by alternative means, by community support, by taking supplements, by having some level of trickery with the healthcare system. And so it really shows that despite your age, despite your ability, despite what healthcare challenges may be facing, that there's a level of like, this shouldn't be happening in the first place. It's not just happening to older Black folks. It's not just happening to disabled Black folks. It's happening to gig workers. It's happening to able-bodied people. And so we really tried to show like a range of stories across the Black experience, because we understand that this happens on a multifaceted level in our community.
Ashley O'Shea, the director of In Due Seasons, which will be screening today as part of the Dialogue Documentaries Film Festival, part of Milwaukee Film. It will be showing today at 4:30 at the Oriental Theater, right? You had Oriental or Downer?
Yes.
You had the
That is
Oriental.
correct.
Okay. Really, thank you for having this conversation with us. I think this is a timely topic and subject, and we appreciate you sharing this with us where we can get a better understanding. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. You're listening to Community Voice. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
'86. We'll see you on Center Street. What's up?
Hey Milwaukee, get ready for a breath of fresh air with Community Heartbeat, your go-to show for health and wellness in our vibrant city. Tune in the last Friday of every month to join us on a journey toward a healthier Milwaukee. Community Heartbeat is not just a show, it's a movement dedicated to bringing our community together through wellness. Call in during our live show the last Friday of every month from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Share your thoughts on social media using hashtag Community Heartbeat, and let's build a healthier Milwaukee together.
Young America, Kamala Harris thinks she knows all about you.
What else do we know about this population? They are stupid.
Kamala thinks you're too stupid to realize she's to blame for overspending and record inflation.
They are stupid.
She thinks you're too stupid to realize groceries now cost 26% more.
They are stupid.
Too stupid to see how she tripled the price of gas.
Stupid.
Kamala Harris thinks you're too stupid to notice home costs have skyrocketed, now 46% higher. Electricity is costing you 25% more. Healthcare has risen 18%, and cars are up a jaw-dropping 33%.
Bidenomics is working.
With all due respect, Madam VP, we're not that stupid. Young America, we can't afford 4 more years of Kamala Harris. To learn more, go to learnaboutkamala.com. Right for America paid for and is responsible for the content of this ad, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.rightforamericapac.com.
Looking at Niecy Nash, those Louboutins, boy, those Christian Louboutins. Okay, the red bottoms. Yeah, I guess when you got money, yeah, she looks good. Again, phone lines are open. My wife explained to me yesterday. She thought that the answer I gave relative to the lack of support of some council members for other council members, she thought I gave a Donald Trump, J.D. Vance answer. I was a little hurt and wounded by that because I don't know. I'm just speculating.
I think the part that you were missing, because I was getting, as I told you, I was getting, and even the individual who was texting me said your answer really had nothing to do with what was being spoken to, and I think it was the fact that you can't speak up for your sister. And you alluded to self-preservation, this, that, and the other, but and that's why my response to you was that he's not their boss, he can't fire him. But when you speak to committee appointments and things of that nature, I guess if you look at it in that way, but still to take rookies and appoint them and put them into these committees and so forth over incumbents or folks who have been there that have the tenure and the knowledge, and these same rookies are going to go back and ask these people how to complete the job. That's where they were going with that. I see it. I know you see it too, but you're always so diplomatic,
Yeah, and I'm also because sometimes you're privy to it and you're not allowed to talk about it publicly. There are people that don't like each other, man. I mean, and we act as if everybody's down there kumbaya, and they're not. And then look, all 15 of those alder people are ambitious people. They all have their level of ambition. If your ambition is great for advocates, it's fine. They're all.
Yeah, but you can't give in to one's aspirations, if you will, or ambitiousness to climb above someone that's been there already in the trenches with you. I wouldn't dare take somebody that just walked in the door that don't even know the job,
right,
and start elevating them over someone that's been there. Now if you tell me that individual had no aspirations and didn't say a word about you not offering them a committee, chairing a committee, or any of the above, and they had no interest in that, okay, that's different. But to take a rookie,
yeah,
over
because that rookie supported that person who was going to be making the appointments, and
but again, you're making it personal, and I guess
no, I'm not saying making it personal. I'm making it political.
You're saying you were there. You elevate to president. I supported you in your run, but I'm new,
right?
So now here's this young lady that's been here 8 years,
right?
Okay, she didn't support me because she was running herself,
right?
So because she was running and I won, or you won, shall I say, she gets nothing.
That's a possibility. Yes, that's the cold hard facts of politics, and I'm always fascinated when people oh, this is a moral issue, and then it can be a political issue. It really depends. But this idea that, like, how long did it take for Gwen Moore to get on Ways and Means? It took a minute, right?
Yeah.
But there were some other people walked in. Nancy Pelosi likes you. She's gonna put you in. You're that's the business, and I think that's great. People want to be naive, and we want to be, oh, they're down there. They're down there because they have ambition.
They're down there
You
singing
hope
Kumbaya.
and if it benefits me to sing Kumbaya, be Kumbaya with you for the moment, I will be. But if it's not, look, people operating. So I think, and that's the problem when we use terms like good, bad, moral, immoral, because now it's based on what your sense of moral is, what your sense of good and bad is, and even what your sense of politics is. But trust me, there are 15 different cabs happening down at City Hall. There are 19 different cabs happening on the county board, right? I mean, they represent either their community or their own self-interest. And so sometimes it doesn't line up that way. And I'm going to say it again, and I don't care if you get mad. Skin don't make kin. Caller, welcome to the program.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Parris.
Good morning.
Thanks for taking my call.
You're
yes,
welcome.
Sir. And assalamu alaikum to you, brothers.
Good morning. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam.
Yes, sir. Mr. Parris, this is like a continuation for me concerning your statement that life, I don't know if you were speaking concerning us as a people, but or generally speaking, that life is not black and white. And then I wanted to add to what I stated yesterday, that a case in point is how we're seeing the handling of Brett Favre as opposed to any other person, like a black celebrity. And we could also cite our own crucifixion of most black people when they have been, when things have been alleged. And I'll share a personal experience. The FBI grabbed me up once before. They sent me a letter, but I was never on an indictment list. And just because
you on the watch list?
I don't know nothing about that. But what I'm saying is that just because the FBI grabs you or the United States Marshals grabs you, that doesn't mean that whatever they grabbing you about is necessarily something that you have done or been a part of, directly. So all I'm saying is that if we don't see that, at least for me, when I've been here for a while now, I've experienced some things, and I've seen or experienced blatant discrimination, blatant this, that, and a lot of other things concerning exclusion. That's why I made the statement, or I came up with the statement, the illusion of inclusion, and that was to that was an expression of concerning the Holy Quran, that this world is illusory concerning with Allah, that everything before us is not everlasting. It's finite, meaning that societies come and they go. And because the prevailing mentality that our people and most people on the planet have been programmed with, inferiority mindedness and a superiority mindedness that's been bred into different peoples. And so when we see the people having a difficulty downtown that may look alike, I would simply cite the Willie Lynch syndrome, and I would also cite the prevailing mentality that dog eat dog in this society, and it doesn't matter if you look like me, and the black people in government do not represent the real power that they think that they represent, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, so let me do this. Let me do an addendum.
Thank you.
That the world is black and white, and we have areas of gray. And what we're going to find out is we're probably more in the area of gray than we are in the black and white. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning. I had a question. Does anybody know, or do you know, if the League of Martin in the city of Milwaukee still exists?
Yes, I think they are. Yep.
Well, do you have a location or a phone number for them?
I do not.
Oh, okay. Do you think any of your listeners that would know, or another Mr. Devo don't know?
You could Google it.
I did Google, and I can't find anything.
Okay. I thought I had talked to someone. I think they're still in existence, but I can check and then I'll let you know.
I appreciate that. And also, with this film festival, is this going to be long running, or
no? The film
is
festival
at the last minute that somebody can go down if they got some meetings planned for this evening to go down to that theater on Valete.
No, they're at the Oriental. Yeah. The times, I don't know if they're using the times. From when I spoke with the curator yesterday, she said that they will be using the Downer and the Oriental. Those are two.
Oh, the Downer
venues.
and the Oriental.
Right.
Not on.
And
Okay.
And you just have to go and check the, the, what do you call it? Their book. And they'll go to their website and they'll pull up where they are and the times of the screenings.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So when you find out,
I'll let you know.
will that be next week or what?
I don't know. I can check because I thought I talked to the guy who was president. So let me do a little research. Hopefully I can get it for you. Oh, I won't be here tomorrow, so it would be Monday.
Okay. Monday for dinner.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Let me write it down so I won't forget. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Yes, Keith.
Good morning.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Well, where I live, they're talking about ranked choice voting, and they said what it's dealing with. They keep on pushing it. I'm against it, but they keep on saying what you can do is you take the politics out of everything.
Mm-hmm.
I guess where you're not a Democrat or you're not a Republican, you're not a unaffiliated or an independent. And they said it makes it better for everybody. I mean, but Bernie says he's not an independent, but he always caucuses with the Democrats.
Who's that
Is
again?
something like that ever possible on a statewide or local level where people can be not partisan? I mean, running for governor, running for attorney general.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that ever possible, or is this they're breathing? They're smoking?
Well, I think it depends on the who's ever doing it, the municipality, the state that's doing it. Like, for example, in the city of Milwaukee, when you run for mayor and you run for the city council, that's considered nonpartisan. So you don't declare a party. The people's leanings based on what they put out in terms of their platforms, their advocacies. You kind of get a sense that person might be Democrat, but it's supposed to be nonpartisan. I know on the state level, then it is partisan in terms of Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Green, whatever the party is. The rank, it is complicated when you look at the rank choice voting. But all that is saying is that you assign what numbers to the candidates, so 1, 2, 3, or 4, and then they work it out based on that. It's really complicated, but yeah. Are they trying it there in Colorado, or are they using it? I mean, are they trying it?
No. I know they're using it in New York. They're trying it. They think about making it. They're having an election, and they're trying to make it so it's going to be so. That's the way they're going to be doing all the statewide elections. And so, but I see some of the people I'm seeing some of the people who lost before. And this guy he was running, he was a black guy, black Republican. He always loses every year. He runs congressional seat 1. He loses every year, but he's for ranked choice voting. Then we have the governor here. He ran as a Democrat, but now he comes out and he says he's a libertarian.
Okay. All right.
I mean, they don't have it here, but I'm just saying is, and then I think Erica Adams, and they have it in New York City. They rank choice.
And I don't know. I think that's partisan, though. I think New York is is partisan?
No, and he's a ranked choice.
Is it? Okay. I didn't realize New York was
Ranked choice. And because I remember when they were running, and they said they selected the first four or something like that, and they were saying, and but like I said, you can be like Bernie, but you know what the person really is.
Well, Manchin,
I mean, he's really a Republican. He's really a Democrat.
Yeah, I think Manchin was one of those where he's very, very conservative. Would
Right,
be like
right,
a
right.
boll weevil Democrat, but he caucuses with the Democrats, even though, you know, some of his positions would be more aligned with Republicans.
Right.
Okay.
And another thing you were talking about some of the southern states and some of their philosophies.
Mm-hmm.
And you were talking about they don't believe in Medicare or something. Medicare. What is that word you use when they were giving more Medicare or something?
Medicaid
or something.
expansion.
And they didn't believe in Medicaid expansion.
Right.
But if you look at where some of the worst health outcomes are, they are in those states. Where the heaviest set people are, they are in those states. Where people have lower life expectancies, they are in those states.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean, Mississippi is considered the unhealthiest state in the country. And
right. And what that means right there.
Yeah.
What that means right there.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's lifestyle. I think the other piece, you know, for 25 years of my life, I did public assistance, and we always talked about which states. Wisconsin took the maximum amount of money they could take for both Medicaid and AFDC. And so we were always ranked high in terms of accepting the money, where in Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, they took the least amount of money. Now, me just looking at it from Wisconsin, looking into those states, I think it was something that Ashley said. Ashley said that that there's an attitude there. If people go on public assistance, they won't want to work, right?
Okay.
But here's the crazy thing. There are people who are working in the state of Mississippi who would still be eligible for Medicaid because their income is so low. And in my mind, it's like states, and you look, everybody's exploiting labor. I'm clear on that. But they want to take away any so-called disincentives for people to work. And then you're going to put people in situations where they don't even have a living wage. They're not going to be offered health insurance by the employer, right? Certainly not even looking at things like retirement. So you get out and you just take advantage. And then like Ashley was saying, like if you're a gig worker, you're not with a corporation that offers health care. So that's an out-of-pocket expense for you.
I think Keith, they're trying to make it in Washington State. They think they were having some issues. So some companies, I forgot what state it was, they were fixing about pulling out because they wanted to give them like a minimum wage gig worker, Uber or one of those states. I can't remember what city or state. Mm-hmm. And also a lot of those states you mentioned too, a lot of the southern states, they pay minimum when it comes to unemployment. So what that means is you can make $100,000, you get laid off in Mississippi. Most you would get would be $250 a week.
Right. And because whole attitude,
I don't know what their thinking is.
Well, the thinking started under Ronald Reagan. And Ronald Reagan had this idea. I'll never forget. I graduated from college into the Reagan Depression, right? If you I graduated 79, 80, 81, 82. It was tough in America. It was hard, right? And part of it was Ronald Reagan was saying, well, look, these people who are getting unemployment are just sitting on their butts. Well, here's the thing about unemployment. You earn your unemployment because you have to work, right? You have to be employed to get unemployment. But there's an attitude out there. And then it's and, you know, we look at it from a racial lens, but we should also look at it from a class lens because the hostility towards poor whites by government sometimes is just as virile as it is for black folks. You know, they were talking about earlier about the I don't know if you listened to Michelle's program. She played the tape of Representative Crockett in a hearing talking about broadband. And they made it sound like the expansion of broadband was a welfare program. No, it's a benefit. One of the reasons why Barack Obama was popular in places that you didn't think he might be in parts of West Virginia, parts of Ohio, was the Affordable Care Act opened up another avenue of employment. healthcare systems, right? Healthcare centers, and people in those communities went to work. And then the ancillary benefit of that is if you have people employed, that means that now you can support the businesses, the real estate. So yeah, that's why the Affordable Care Act is really popular. And even though Republicans are tone deaf and keep saying we're going to repeal it, a lot of people going like, dude, it's been 14 years. And the way it works in America, once you give Americans benefits, it's hard pulling those benefits back, especially when they benefit. The thing I think about
when they did that is when they had welfare with Bill Clinton.
Yeah, welfare reform.
The welfare reform thing. This is when he came in there and said, we're going to end welfare and make people work and everything. It wasn't a bad thing or anything. But sometimes some of the people, based on some of the people I knew, some of the people were lazy, and sometimes some of the people did need training. And I think that was a missing part. And I think that and you're right about some of those. There was a guy from Arkansas, and his daughter was telling me, very conservative from Arkansas, and he was telling me that for some reason her father voted for Barack Obama when he first ran.
Mm-hmm.
And what is surprising, coming from conservative Arkansas, you had all these white people voting for him in Arkansas.
Because the reality is when you go and you're among poor whites, right? The only thing
poor whites.
Okay, but I'm just saying who would be attracted to Barack Obama? And these were people probably looking at their policies who were able to overcome their prejudices, which is very difficult, right? They were able to overcome them and say, you know what, this guy is going to be better for us than McCain. And certainly, and here's the thing that hurt Mitt Romney when he ran against Barack Obama. Barack Obama benefited. The hostility that Americans have towards Mormons, right? And
really?
So there were a lot of white evangelicals who just decided not to vote because they couldn't see themselves voting for a Mormon, and they certainly couldn't see themselves voting for a black man. So they just sat it out. I mean, yeah, so when you look at, and then those are the same folks who then turned and showed up when Donald Trump ran against Hillary Clinton, because they could see themselves voting for a white male buffoon, and they could not ever see themselves voting for a woman, no matter how qualified that woman was or is. And I think that that's something that, though not spoken, that's what Kamala Harris is up against. Because and this is not just white men. There are some black men who just cannot see themselves voting for a black woman. I don't know where that comes from, or a woman, period. Exactly. And that was one
last thing I want to say. Is there a lot of gender discrimination within the black? Is that part of being an American? Is that?
I think.
I mean, the gender. They have racial discrimination, but they have gender discrimination too.
Yeah, I think.
Or some black guys who were saying, you know, something. There's sometimes some of the black guys are worse than the white guys.
Yeah, I mean, misogynism doesn't necessarily have a racial component. It does have a racial component in terms of what feeds into it. So look, if you're a black man and you primarily deal with black women, that means that there are going to be conflicts between black men and black women. A lot of men have been raised to be misogynistic, to look at women as objects, not looking at women being fully human or even equal. And unfortunately, there are some black men who feel that way, right? And then let me say this, it's even to the point where you have women who can't see a woman in a position of leadership, right?
Oh yeah, I've been told that.
I mean, we've been programmed in this country, and so because we look at all of these kind of surface kind of things, it's not substance. We'll see race, we'll see gender, you know, we'll see all those things, but we're not having a very serious, on a national level anyway, between the two candidates, a serious conversation about policy, because one of them can't have that conversation, right? And then when you begin to start talking about policy, here's what I'm going to do. People, I don't want to hear all of that. I think it's a dodge when I'm hearing in the pollings that people need to know more about Kamala Harris. What more do you need to know? It's not a question of that. You know, convince me that I should vote for you as a descendant of Africans and as a descendant of a South Asian Why should I vote for you? Because if we're trying to act as if racism has gone away and sexism has gone away and homophobia has gone away, we're deceiving ourselves. And you're hearing that just by that tweet that you heard from the guy from the great state of Louisiana, was Mr. Higby, whatever his name is. He can say that openly. And the only thing they'll say to him is just take it down. There's no sanction for it because there's a lot of people who subscribe to what it is that he's putting out.
And one other thing, quick, is Wisconsin a liberal state or conservative state, or is it in between?
We're purple.
Okay. Okay, enjoy talking to you.
All right, appreciate you. You're listening to Community Voice. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
AM and 106.5 FM with your host, Keith Parris.
All right, welcome back to Community Voice. And, Okay. Welcome back to Community Voice. I'm your host, Keith Parris. I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. My next song.
So you didn't hear that first one? It was like,
sitting there on the,
hi, welcome back.
sitting on the dock of the bay, and I came up with this song, watching the time just roll away. We're joined in studio by the good folks. Versity, did I get it right?
Yes. Very good.
Miss Tony Boston. She's
Tani.
Tani.
Mm-hmm.
It's Tani. I told you it was Tani. And Miss Tani Boston. Miss Tani
Happens
Boston.
all the time. Happens all the time.
Miss Tani Boston. She is the Senior Manager of Community Relations with Outreach at Versity Blood Center. We have on the line with us, let's see, what's this woman's name? Oh, yeah. Representative Lakeisha Myers. Hey.
Good morning, Keith.
Good morning. And again, thank you for Tuesday. You did an outstanding job. Appreciate you.
You know, that's what they say.
Who's they? All right. Please be more specific. Who is they? No.
Be specific.
And Miss, I'm going to do it right. Miss Amber Kozlik.
Yep, you got it. Good morning.
And she's a living donor.
I am a living donor.
So
Kidney
we have a transplant recipient and we have a living donor.
Amen. Yes, we do.
Okay, so let's find out a little bit. We know a lot about Dr. Myers. Tell us a little bit about you, Tani.
Well, first of all, thank you for having us all on today. We appreciate the opportunity to come and share around this life-saving mission of organ and tissue donation. So I have worked with Versity now for about 9 years this past June. And I was just at an event last night saying that the best thing about my job and what I love to do most is serve my community. So this job allows me that opportunity to bring together, you know, my passion of serving the community, my passion of saving lives, and my passion of just engaging in different aspects of education and awareness. And so that's what I've done at Versity the last 9 years. I've built programs to help, you know, go out into the community and really meet people where they are on this topic of organ, tissue, and blood donation, and really try to bust myths, you know, when and wherever I can, and to bring about awareness and an open environment where people can begin to have casual conversations around organ and tissue and blood donation.
You're originally from
Milwaukee.
Where'd you go to high school?
I'm a general. All down.
I'm just had a general education.
I am a Rufus King general.
Them generals.
Okay.
I thought it was just a general education.
No. Them generals. Yes. And so I went from the blue and gold to the blue and gold to Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Tigers?
No, Jaguars.
Jaguars.
Yes.
Cats.
He's like, same thing. No. And then I came back. You want the full history? And then I came back here.
Now, what are they? Are they they're not the boombox of the South. What do you guys, what you're marching there?
She's like, it's been a minute. Hold on.
It's been a minute.
Right,
I want to say it's the jukebox.
It's the jukebox.
Representative Myers.
The human jukebox.
Human jukebox. There you go. Human jukebox. There you go. You want the full history? Then I came back here. And I graduated from UW Milwaukee.
All right.
And then I went to Alverno College for my master's.
There you go.
There you go.
Amber, tell us a little bit about you.
Oh, so much to share.
You're fascinating.
I've got some things.
Yeah,
do I get to jump right into my
Yes, you do.
Okay. So I am the oldest of 4. I do have an older brother from a daddy, but the ones that grew up under my mom's household, there are four of us, and I'm the oldest. And when I turned 15, my mom got kidney failure. So previous to that, she had lupus, and she had just found out, want to say a year or so before she had kidney failure. So for those that don't know, lupus is an autoimmune disease, and it can show up and present in your body in a myriad of different ways. And the way in which it showed up in her body is it attacked her organ. So imagine being, 15, you got all these younger siblings that were like, we were right after the other. And my mom had adopted my younger brother. And so we were all, huddled under mommy, and she was our complete world. And all of a sudden she's like functioning for everybody, right? She's the mom that would be taking folks in, letting them live with us. She did daycare because she homeschooled all of us all the way from kindergarten to 12th grade. And so seeing such a robust person caring for everyone all the time, and then suddenly when you have kidney failure and lupus, that it just takes you out, energy, everything. Also, our resources were very small. So trying to figure out, what do we do from here? What are our options? So talking to doctors, we're like, okay, is it dialysis? Is it, do we get a donation? How do we go about our next steps? And so as they kind of explained what our next steps were, lack of education really played a lot into that, because we're hearing, oh, well, you can do dialysis, but, this is what that looks like. You can get a transplant, but the medication that you have to take could cause like we heard the word cancer could cause cancer, like the side of. So we're like, oh, well, we could do dialysis and could do that for life and then avoid the possible cancer situation. That's how we interpreted that conversation. And so we were like, well, of course we're going to pick dialysis because, without really even fully understanding what a transplant meant, how you go about that, what that really looks like. And, again, with resources being what they were, we didn't have a computer. There was no ability to expound on that lack of knowledge. So we embarked on dialysis. So my mom was on dialysis for years. And imagine, again, you're leaving your babies at home. Dialysis is very rigorous, and it's 3+ hours several times a week, depending on what type of how we were being dialyzed in the hospital. Many times I had to drive on my temps and pay rent, and it was a very challenging, scary time. So fast forward to I'm 20 years old. The doctors are saying, hey, it's getting harder to dialyze my mom because you have to have pathways into your veins, blood, to be able to have a good dialysis session. So during this time, she had multiple surgeries, different things to allow for productive dialysis. And they were saying they were running out of options in terms of having a successful dialysis run. So I'm like, well, we can't have that. When I tell you my mom, like the kind of rock and the loving, constant, like the level of security she provided us mentally, emotionally, physically, the level of godliness inside of her. I can't even describe the amount of security you get from a godly mother that is just there for you, So I was like, oh, we can't have that. We got to figure this out. So I went to my church and I was like, can we please have a fundraiser or something? I will run it. So I put together flyers with church, and
How old were you?
I was 20.
Okay.
Yeah. So we put together like this whole campaign at church. And we're like, okay, let's gather whoever might be interested in donating. Cause at that point, now I'm the researcher, right? Like I going to Marquette at the time, like we are handling this. I need to understand what needs to be done. Who can donate? Does it have to be a family member? All of that. And found out it doesn't have to be a family member. Doesn't have to. So I'm like, okay, great. Let's go tell the world. Where's the billboard? So at that point, we had a couple people interested. One actually went through the whole process of seeing if she would be a good candidate to be a donor for transplant. I think that's another thing people don't realize is you don't have to just get a transplant from someone putting on their driver's license that I'll be a donor, or from someone who passed and is donating their organs. You can also have someone who's a living donor give them your kidney. So once I realized that, again, like I said, it was on and popping. Like, when I tell you I was asking people on the street, I'm not even playing. I was like, hey, you have 2 kidneys. Can we use one of those? We need it. So at that point, like I said, a couple people were interested. One went all the way through to get tested, but ultimately I also got tested and I was the best match. So now I was quaking in my boots because I don't like pain. I was scared. I was stressed. I was like, what is this going to be like? And we had the procedure at Freighter and it was amazing. The surgeons there were very kind to me. Because I said, listen, I do not want to feel pain after this. I am a wuss. And he was like, we're going to take good care of you. The case manager got on him a little bit because he promised me that there was not going to be any pain. And she said, don't be promising her that. And I'm like, no, we're holding you to that. So thanks. So had the surgery, and honestly, it was beyond my wildest dreams. I did not realize they could do it laparoscopically. Where literally there, I have 2 small scars on my stomach. I was real vain because I was cute back then. And I was modeling and stuff. And I said, can we make sure the scar is, when you got to go through, don't go through my belly button, go through like down below my bikini line because I wanted to be cute. And so they were very accommodating, did that very small, incision. He said, I just have to be able to get my hand in there. I said, that's too much information. Thank you. But they were very accommodating. Honestly, they said maybe a 6-week recovery, especially with it being laparoscopic. And I was a nanny, so I took the full 6 weeks. But honestly, right when I got home, so I was in the hospital about 4 days. And then when I got home, I was on like Tylenol. And it was about 2 weeks of discomfort. And when I say discomfort, it was like, oh, let me lay on this side and put a pillow next to the side, this
soreness
other side.
as opposed to
soreness.
pain.
Yeah. And so that was mind blowing to me that something so huge that saved someone's life was a minor inconvenience for me, literally minor inconvenience. So that, I think that to me really opened up a pathway of like, oh, I got to tell all the people, because this is for us to save someone's life. We don't really get a lot of opportunity to save people's lives. If you're not, police or fire or nurse, you don't always get those opportunities to be able to do something that impactful. So I was like, oh my gosh, I got to tell people. So kind of, again, fast forward to, it took a little bit for my mom to heal. She was in the hospital for about a month. But again, at that time, by that point, I was 24. And my mom got to live to see me get married. She got to live to see me have 4 kids. She recently passed away, but it had nothing to do with the kidney. It had all to do with having an autoimmune disease, because lupus doesn't stop. She was 61. But the testimony that we got in that, and we got to share the good news of Jesus Christ with multiple people throughout that. But the biggest thing that I've found is that people are suffering everywhere, and our community needs to rise up and go, how can I help you get a kidney? We know so many people in our community that have kidney failure, diabetes, all of these different things that we can assist them with. We can be that beacon for them. We can help them live to see the future of their other family members. Because when I tell you the amount of difference and impact my mom got to make by knowing my children, she got to be here till my oldest was 10. So all of those memories and all of that functioning together, we were together all the time. And we would have never had that without the gift of life. And so it's so important to think about, like, okay, if this person that has this need was my mom or my sister or my brother, would I want someone to stand up and go, I got you? Look at people like you would your closest person, because your closest person might not be your family, right? Look at the people that are in need as the closest person to you, and how devastated you would feel if someone wasn't willing to step up and show that love. And I think if you lead with that, it really changes your whole perspective in terms of, could I possibly be a living donor? What does that look like? And I will tell you, the doctors are very rigorous, and they make sure that you are in a healthy spot. They try to project your health, down the road as well. So they're not going to go, oh, great, thanks, here's a kidney, I'll take it. They will make sure that they're advocating for you in that whole process. So they're going to make sure that you are actually in a position physically to do well with that. But honestly, my life has been the exact same after that. I have had 4 children since then. I'm currently pregnant again. I'm a surrogate for someone. So I get the opportunity to have a baby for someone and help and change and shape their life in that way. And so I've been able to do all of that on one kidney, because the really cool thing that God gave us the spare, what happens is when you take one, the other one increases functioning to about 60-70%, and you only need 10% for it to maintain functioning. So all of that to say, I am so grateful to be here, to be able to share the good news that you too get to be a hero. You too get to be that person that stands in the gap for someone who needs you desperately, because you really never know when you need someone to show up for you in your life. Right now, currently, I have 2 people that I have friends with that need a kidney. One's a mom, and she's got a little girl, one of my kids' ages, that's 10. And I have another really great friend that's my age that lives in California, that she's also waiting for a kidney. So there are people that are a stone's throw away from you that have this need. So I would honestly implore you to look within your heart and think about, how can you stand in the gap for others?
Okay. So
a lot there.
Lot to unpack.
Yeah.
Look.
And boy, humanity's getting full benefit from your body.
Like, I'm doing what I can. I'm like, what else can I give?
Dr. Myers, you were a kidney transplant recipient.
Yes, I was a kidney transplant recipient in 2019. I had to call the Johns Hopkins Hospital. I had some dialysis at that point for 5 years.
You have us on speaker?
Nope, I'm not on speaker.
Okay, all right. Just breaking up a little bit.
It's better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. I actually was on dialysis for 5 years and got the call from Johns Hopkins Hospital that they had kidney for me. And it was an overwhelming experience, to say the least, because they called and they said, "Hey, we have a kidney for you." I said, "I'm on my way." She was like, "Wait, don't do anything just yet. We need to, do one more thing. We'll call you back." So she was like, "Start looking for a plane ticket now." So I did that. I made it. Like Michelle took me to the airport in Chicago. Another friend picked me up and drove me to the hospital. And I was able to. That kidney lasted until January 2022. I'd actually gotten sick, and then my kidney failed. So I'm currently on dialysis again, and have been on dialysis since the end of January 2022. So I do dialysis every day. So I do it, at night while I'm sleeping. So it's become I'm back to the new normal of doing dialysis. But I would second everything that she said about, being a donor for someone else. And one of the things that makes it better for kidney recipients is they find a living donor. So I'm listed at 3 hospitals and am currently waiting on a kidney, but I would second everything that she said. If you can think about becoming a donor, get the orange dot on your driver's license. Consider being a living donor. The driver's license works when you're no longer with us, but you can also do it as a living donor, and you will be fine. So I think that part is something that a lot of people don't really know a lot about. There are also kidney matching programs that exist as well. So if Keith said, "I want to give Keith a kidney," if he got the workup and was approved, but you weren't a match directly for me, you might be a match for somebody else in their system, and their person, we can switch. So it can be like a kidney swap situation where your donor could work for someone else, their donor could work for you, and they send that to, I think, about 20-some people that are able to be matched and receive kidneys.
We, when you talk about dialysis, you drive throughout the city and you see all these dialysis centers. And one of the things that you see is the number of descendants of Africans who have needs for dialysis. We talk about certainly in traumatic situations, traumatic injuries, the number of descendants of Africans who need blood. Yet, we are less likely to donate organs. and we're less likely to give blood. Yet,
And we have the greatest need for both.
that's what I was going to say. We're the primary
Exactly.
beneficiary of those. So you have a program now called Connect the Dot. Explain that.
Yes. So as I mentioned before, I've been with Versity on the organ and tissue side for 9 years. And the majority of my time there has been spent engaging our African American, our Hispanic communities. And, I started to think a lot about, that's great. I know the need is great in our communities. But, how can we continue to make this message clear and make it plain? So the Connect the Dot, I think of it in terms of connecting the dot in 3 ways. First of all, it's making people understand what that little orange dot on your driver's license actually means, and if you have that dot on your driver's license, it means that you've considered the cost. You've thought about, that this is a life-saving opportunity. You've thought about that at the time of my death, I want to make sure that my, organs could potentially live on and save someone else's life. You've had the conversation with your family and your close friends to say, hey, this is what I desire and this is what I'm signing up to do. So secondly, this campaign represents an opportunity for people like Amber to come out and boldly share their testimonies and connect with people across our communities.
I wish
right?
she wasn't such a shrinking violet. I wish she would speak up just a little bit more, Amber.
He's being sarcastic.
Am I not talking loud enough?
He's talking about me.
About Amber, you're going to try to get her to talk.
He was like, I don't think she needed a platform, but that's awesome that you used it.
Not like
that
when
way.
the mic is on, she's on.
But I said like Amber. So we have, Amber is just one of 9 of the Connect the Dot ambassadors. And some of them you kind of have to push a little bit to get out there and share their message. But it is allowing them that platform to say, hey, I am a living organ donor. I am, my relative, my husband, my wife was able to be a donor and save multiple lives in their transition, right? And that's connecting the people, right? We connect by, engaging with one another, hearing the testimonies and experiences of, one another every day. And then lastly, the Connect the Dot campaign allows us to go beyond one community. It's the responsibility of people in every community to consider this life-saving mission.
There was an interesting stat that was provided. It says, despite the fact that 95% of Americans say they're in favor of organ and tissue donation, only 56% are registered donors.
That's right.
There's a disconnect.
There is a disconnect. A lot of work to be done. What
about, and the other thing is this, I just had someone who had an organ removed in my family. And it was very interesting because there was a certain level of apprehension there. And we had to explain to the person, well, if they don't remove it, you could die, right? But I'm just saying that this idea, the myths that we have, and then there are all these other causal things like if there are people who, for religious reasons, believe in whole body resurrection. And so everything should be intact. Now, I can make this other argument that seems kind of cold and street level. You ain't going to need them where you going.
Right. Oh. I mean,
the
Lord talks about the soul. So I think if people, you're right.
But you need your soul.
Right.
That'll go with you.
Exactly.
But your kidney, you ain't gonna need wherever you're going.
They don't come with you.
Right. So there'd be a benefit because we're all connected. That whole idea, the human ecosystem, how we're all connected and we can benefit because it's not just like kidneys. There are people who have donated eyes, right?
That would be tissue. Consider tissue.
Yeah. I mean, so, and again, because we're so impacted by it, I think we have to raise the level of education and consciousness to understand this could be a benefit.
And, you know, there have been our national organization has done research and connected with all of the major religions. And mainly all of them accept organ and tissue donation as a life-giving option, and would welcome that for their parishioners. So, you know, that research has been done. But it's an individual choice. It's an individual decision.
You're listening to Community Voice. We're joined in studio and on the phone, the great folks who are affiliated with Versity here, Amber and Tani and Lakeisha. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. I just had a distress Keon moment there. Dr. Myers. Dr. Myers.
Yes.
No, I was just saying I had a distress Keon moment there. I was making my whole argument for science has its lane and religion has its lane.
Oh,
and
Lord.
You knew how that drove him crazy. And yeah, because after a while, he didn't think I was a Christian. So, but I think having a conversation, you all said something off air. The more conversations we have, we're able to raise the knowledge level of people to help them overcome, because fear is probably the number one driver.
It's real. It's
You
real.
know, I mean, it is. Again, the individual who had her gallbladder removed, she's going like, well, you take something out my body. And we're going, yeah, but if we leave it in your body, you're going to be departing from your body. You're going to be present with the Lord. So you might want to, but the fear, and we do a regular health segment here on Tuesdays, and talking about this one myth out there about, that I heard it when I was a kid. I hear it now, that if they open you up, that spread the cancer. No,
That is not how cancer works.
That's not how cancer works. Now, what happened was, by the time Big Mama got to the hospital, the cancer has already spread, right? So yeah, it seemed like when you open it up, it spread. But no, Big Mama had been struggling with this, all along. And so to be able to, and I think, how important is it for all of you, you being a donor, Lakeisha, you being a recipient, Tanya, you the person who's the conduit of being able to do this. How important then is it, or what type of conversation should be had? Is that a better question? What kind of conversation should be had to allay people's fear or discomfort with the process?
Well, certainly, I would say honest conversation. One of the programs that we built is called CODAR, Churches for Organ Donation Education and Registration. And so we've literally partnered now with about 22 churches, developed CODAR core teams in those churches, and we established education sessions where we would go into churches 2 hours at a time, and literally sit down and have an honest conversation. What we have been told is that it's not that we as a community don't believe in organ and tissue donation. We just don't know enough about it. And we want to talk to the experts. They said, we like you, Miss Community Outreach Person, but bring us the experts, the people who do the work every day. And so with those CODAR education sessions, that's what we do. We go in. We've taken with us the medical examiner. We've taken with us transplant surgeons.
You took the medical examiner?
We've taken the medical examiner.
Yep.
Yes, we have. We've taken transplant surgeons. We've taken nursing staff that work in these scenarios. We've taken people from our OPO who do this work every day, different areas, the tissue team, the organ team, the recovery team. We've taken those people, put them right in front of the people at those churches, and we've had a panel discussion where we let the congregation and the community lead that with the questions that they ask. So it's just frank conversation where they feel comfortable having that conversation.
As a legislator, Dr. Myers, how important is the policy around this? Would you say that, or how would you describe public policy as it relates to organ donation?
I think we've made a lot of inroads in public policy when it comes to organ and tissue donation. There are tax credits that you get when you are an organ donor that exist. Your transplant donation is basically covered when you do that. It does not come from your insurance when you become an organ donor. So those are things that we do on that side for the people who are donating. For people who are kidney recipients like myself, you get an advanced, placement with Medicare if you need it. You can have full Medicare coverage if you are on dialysis or need a kidney transplant. There are other things that you get as well. You are considered federally disabled when you have end-stage renal disease. So there are other things that we've done to help people in the workplace because folks understand what a toll it is on your body when you don't have a functioning, kidney that works. So all of those things are already done and put in place for people, who are suffering with end-stage renal disease. So I think what Connie does is so important because it helps highlight what a lot of folks don't want to talk about. And we had this conversation before. I told Connie, when I met Connie, actually, that was the first time, I think at one of the CODAR events, that I had actually publicly talked about my struggle with kidney disease. Because it was something that I was like, no, I'm going to just deal with this privately. Only my family knows. But it was like a burden was lifted when I started talking about it freely and talking about the fact that I was doing dialysis and then doing dialysis at home. A lot of people look at me crazy. You can do dialysis at home? Yes, you can. And then slowly I would see people call me or pull me to the side. Well, I have a family member that's dealing with this, or it was kind of like it was a secret. They didn't really want to talk about it. But, like Amber, I'm like, okay, I'm the walking billboard for, people who are on dialysis, and I tell everybody.
Oh, you're literally a billboard. Come on.
I am. I always wanted to be America's Next Top Model, and I did not know that
A walking billboard. You have stationary billboards. I mean,
I am.
That's my fault.
Now.
That's my
I was in the DMV. Is that you? Yes, I am the poster child for her. And for being a kidney donor. So, yes. My photo is in your local DMV. And on the billboards around the state.
Not in the post office.
Not in the
DMV, not the post office. There you
but
go.
It's in the DMV. So, really, yes, my modeling career was resurrected because of Connie Boston. I went from being a Sears model as a child to being, in your local DMV and on billboards across the state. So, yes.
And I am so grateful. Because of the people that I get to work with. The people who, like Amber, like Representative Myers. I think I've come on this show maybe with Richard Lewis before. Like I said, we have the Lifeline ambassadors. We built an exhibit, an art exhibit around organ and tissue donation that features 8 African Americans who are members of the Divine Nine, right? Because we're trying to make, again, this a conversational topic. And when you can walk into an exhibit and see yourself in that exhibit, whether you're an AKA, a Delta, an Omega, you first see that and you recognize that. But when you get deeper into that exhibit and start reading the testimonials of those Lifeline ambassadors, then what we're hoping is that you can better connect with this life-saving mission.
And what we discover is that renal disease doesn't exempt you just because you're a member of the Divine Nine. My point is
that's right. That it will find whomever it
will.
Yes.
Because I would have been an alpha next week. I was running sign up. But you're right. And I think the commonality, that human connectedness that we kind of, we use this term community. I think sometimes we're flippant in using that term, but we are connected. We're connected on so many different levels. So part of the connect the dot, what would you encourage people to do to be a part of that?
If they are unaware of this mission, if they have questions about this mission, connect with someone who knows. Like, you have representatives, reach out to me, organize an education session. If you are, a part of a school, we have programs for schools where we come out, you learn about in schools, the importance of giving blood, right? We go in, we have blood drives, and that's wonderful. But the education around organ and tissue donation is not there. It's not mandated. And when you talk about legislation, that's one of the things that we want to begin to put a charge toward. How do we make that so that each high school, needs to have that education built in, right? Because we want people, when they go in for the first time, to get their driver's license and they're asked that question, do you want to be a registered organ and tissue donor? We want them to check the box, but obviously we want them to do that having the knowledge, right? Not just making a rash decision of no or yes without having the knowledge. So we'll come wherever. We don't care. So we'll come out and give the education and awareness.
Other organizations want to invite you, how can they contact you?
So they can reach me at tbostonadversity.org, tboston@versity.org. They can go out to our website. We have a plethora of resources out there as well.
Love that word.
Plethora.
I love that word.
Yes. So it is out there at versity.org. If they'd like to do their own research, they could always go to Donate Life Wisconsin as well. And You can register there. It's a form out there, takes about 2 minutes to complete, and you can join the registry that way. We've had people say, well, I don't want that orange dot on my driver's license because I don't know what somebody might, somebody who has to come and get me and they're in the medical field, the ambulance or whatever. And we've said to them, you don't have to have the orange dot on your driver's license. You can still be a registered donor without having that orange dot. Those are things we want people to know.
I love all African people all over the world.
Because a lot of have the same. It's a myth carried down, right?
Yeah.
My mom had said that at one point.
That's right.
So that's how I heard it. It's all of those things passed down. But beyond that, too, what Tani said, you are more than welcome to also submit questions you may have to her that she will be happy to forward on to the ambassadors that have been a part of that mission, the ones that have also walked through those shoes with you, whether it be, representative shoes, like one that's actually been a recipient or a donor themselves or someone who's been close to that. We just want to have a conversation to where you are able to understand what your fear is and how you combat that fear. So in order to get that conversation going, and if you have questions that are associated to that, you can also submit those, because we'd be more than happy to say, hey, I'm willing to partner with you in your journey to understanding, because it's really a full circle, right? It starts with proactivity, the best you can to maintain a healthy body, that you're doing everything you can at the beginning, right? Then if you find yourself that I'm now sick for whatever reason, you also have a level of education of what's available to you. Because as I shared in my story, we had no idea. So really, my mom should have looked to do a transplant early on before her body was already ravaged by dialysis, because dialysis it comes with the cost as well, right? So she could have already had that life-saving measure. We could have been about that earlier, and it maybe even could have extended just her quality of life as well. So that's another important piece, is having the understanding of what all your options are. And then from there, it's then getting the education around how you can be part of the work, how you can be part of the work of donating blood or tissue or organ. And if you're like, okay, I don't know if I'm jumping all the way to organ right now, like that's the whole, start baby steps.
Mm-hmm.
You can baby step it and go, I'm going to start with blood and I want to get some more information about tissue and otherwise. What does that even look like? Tell me more. So really our mission is the tell me more conversation. It's not necessarily to be like, gotcha.
Right.
Now it's none of that, because the more you know, the more you share, the more you get passionate about the topic. And before you know it, it will impact you at some point in your life, most likely, because with anything, things impact people when they least expect it, especially in our community. We know that this is an area of opportunity. So likely you will have some kind of connection to it. So we just want to be your support and partner with you in your journey of life. And come one, come all. We're happy to help you understand that and answer questions too.
Let me thank Dr. Lakeisha Myers. Let me thank Ms. Amber Kozlik.
You got it.
And Ms. Tani Boston.
Yes.
Appreciate you all.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
Thank
you
for having us.
Thank you. And thank you. Very timely discussion and appreciate it. And this just three very sharp folks who were able to do this. Appreciate it. I'm going to wind down, take a break. I'm going to come back. Let's take a break. You're listening to Community Voice. We're up on the last break of the program. We'll be right back. Someone did just send me information for the League of Martin. Thank you, Sister Herrera. The League of Martin is located at 2821 North 4th Street. I think that must be in the Harambe building. And they do have a phone number, 414-372-8294.
No, the Harambe building is 26, isn't it? 23.
No, because 2821. Yeah, 28 is going towards Clark.
No, 28 is Burleigh.
Is it that far? Burleigh is like 30th.
Right.
So this is going to be between
you-
Chambers and
Locust, maybe?
Yeah. Okay. Is that the police station?
I don't know. But you said North what street?
No, because 2841 North 4th. So
well, maybe it's in the old Numbers building over there, somewhere in there. Would that
be
28?
Sanford. The Sanford building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
Okay.
in
All
there,
right. There we go. And again, they do have a website. You can go to www.leagueofmartin.com. I yesterday was watching, and something came up on YouTube. I was telling Debo, I love the Church of God in Christ. I love the Church of God in Christ. I really do. And I got a chance to see Bishop J.O. Patterson, James Oglethorpe Patterson.
Right.
And he told this joke. I love the joke. This is a great
about
joke.
the dog.
You heard that one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I tell it?
Yeah, please do.
Because it had me in stitches.
It's a good one.
So he said, one of my preaching brethren came to me and said to me, there was a man who wanted me to bury his dog, do his funeral. I said, man, I ain't burying no dog and do no funeral for no dog. I preach holiness. I ain't doing no burial for the dog. And the man said, well, I'm sorry to hear that, because I had taken out a $25,000 insurance policy on the dog, and I had devoted $2,500 for his funeral. And the pastor said to him, why didn't you tell me that was a Church of God in Christ dog?
There you go. There you go. Yeah, that was a good one. When I first heard that one, I watched it 3 or 4 times.
And he was saying they made a point. He said the difference was the dollars.
Right.
Dollars make a difference. Must have been taking up offering. He said, no, but that was so cold. Why didn't you tell me that was a Church of God in Christ?
Of course, you know you could flip that out and make that. Why didn't you tell me he was a
Baptist dog? Right. He had some great stories. And I didn't realize that he married a woman, his second wife, who was a lot younger than him. So I don't know where he was. I don't know if it was a convocation. And he got up and he said that that there's some people who have a real problem with the woman I'm choosing to marry, and so he went on, because he went on to talk about all the things he needed to get permission for to be a bishop. But he pointed out to them that he didn't need their permission to figure out who he was going to marry. Because I know when they asked Mary to stand up, I was going, there's an age difference there. And then he said something. He said, now some of you have a problem with the choice that I made in terms of who my wife is going to be. I had some problems with the choice of who your husband was. I got to go back and watch some more tape on him, man. He was good. And then of course there was the joke that
he was Mason's son-in-law, wasn't he?
Was he?
Yeah, I believe he was Charles Harrison.
And
Mason's
I gotta ask my good brothers, and I don't know if they still do this, who were part of the Church of God in Christ. It looked like they were doing something. So I don't know if they were honoring Bishop Mason, but they had the bow ties on. And I didn't know if that was an affair, but all the preachers, most of them had on bow ties. The bow tie. If you see pictures of Bishop Mason,
was, because he always had on the bow tie.
Always had on the bow tie.
Yeah, for certain.
Love the Church of God in Christ.
He actually put me in the mind of the
Elijah Muhammad.
Elijah Muhammad, yeah.
And being those guys. So because a lot of people don't know Elijah Poe, who became Elijah Muhammad, his daddy was a Baptist preacher. I think he was. And so but man, the history of the Black church, I embrace the history, regardless of denomination. Somebody said, where would we be had we not had the Black church?
Keith, you're a Baptist preacher, right?
Yes, sir.
You know what? One thing that always impressed me about them when they say, I'm getting ready to close. It's about that time. Let me think. Go ahead.
As I take my seat and I wind this thing up. All right, now I got to go back and see who I need to thank who was part of the program today. Let me pull it up. Let me thank Miss Tony Boston, Miss Amber, Dr. Lakeisha Myers, and Ashley O'Shea for all being part of Coslick. Yeah, there you go. Debo, thank you. Carvey, thank you. Good Lord willing, Creek Don't Rise. I will talk to you guys on Monday. Tomorrow, Free Throw Friday will be Devon Jones, DJ the Protege. And if good Lord willing, I hope to be back with you on Monday. And as always, go from this place in peace.
Open up.